So every hospital, health facility will have its own law, and it will be very specific to that health institution.
Okay, we'll leave it at that, and I would be happy to receive information on provinces that are requesting for reversal to national government operations. Let me now proceed to PhilHealth and strengthening fiscal discipline and revenue integrity in PhilHealth. We know that PhilHealth, while it has tried its best but continues to face major fiscal discipline challenges that compromises sometimes its delivery of affordable health care and accessible health care. And we have this years-old law, the Universal Health Care, mandating the full allocation of the sin tax revenues to PhilHealth. The agency has consistently received less than what is legally required. 69.78 billion for 2026, but only 53.26 billion reflected in the net. This was discussed in an earlier discussion. 106.95 billion in mandatory remittances from PAGCOR and PCSO since 2018 remains largely unreleased, while the agency's collection efficiency has dropped from 53 to 12%. These funding shortfalls reduce PhilHealth's ability to expand outpatient care, settle hospital claims on time, strengthen primary care packages, etc. So, may we be enlightened why, although this has been discussed earlier in my interpellation of the DOF and DBM, but I'd like to put it on record once again in the DOH budget. Why has PhilHealth consistently received less than the legally mandated share of sin tax revenues, despite certification from the Bureau of Internal Revenue? And what measures can be institutionalized to prevent future under-allocations and ensure the full and timely release of its mandated funds?
Mr. President, I forewarned the proponent that I cannot answer that question because I share the same concern as Her Honor, and I do not have the answer for the life of me. There is no legal basis for not releasing those funds. The law cannot be any clearer that it already is. It is crystal clear that this money is for sin tax. There is nothing else I could do as a legislator to improve that, unless I will say there that do not allow the Secretary of the Department of Finance and the Secretary of DBM to make a decision that will be contrary to this law. Because that is what they did.
I heard the good lady sponsor forewarning me not to ask the question.
Then I said you can ask, but I will not expect an answer other than what I'm just saying.
And of course I said, I still intend to ask it in the DOH budget, and I want to put it on record. Right. So, in short, may utang po ang PAGCOR at PCSO mula 2018.
Liwanagin po natin yan, ano? Kasi yun din ang akala ko. Hindi si PAGCOR at si PCSO ang may utang. Kasi si PAGCOR has said it in our hearing, and I believe PCSO also, yung na-earmark sa kanila, they have delivered it to the National Treasury. So that funding is there. Again, I also said during my own interpellation earlier today sa DOF na there is a different provision of law that governs the release of the PCSO and the PAGCOR earmarked funds. But it simply says that the release of those funds would be subject to the usual budget, walang sinabi doon na extraordinary, wag niyong ibigay yung funding. Kasi ganun ang nangyari. Ni piso, ni 50%, ni 10%, 1%, wala namang binigay since 2019 when the law was passed. So there are two different laws governing the sin tax and another set of law, another provision that governs PAGCOR. But the point is, in both cases, and they should be treated differently, it has not been released. Yung, again, to be clear, si sin tax, nire-release, pero kulang-kulang. Kulang-kulang, taon-taon. What is the basis for that? There is no basis na kulang-kulang ang i-release doon. To answer Her Honor's questions, what can be done? The only thing that can be done, because the justification given by the Secretary of Finance for the non-release, well, the Secretary was speaking for DBM as well, was because the funding wasn't being used. So I said, okay, but clearly if it wasn't used, then it is the executives of PhilHealth that must use it well. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't give it to them. You push them to use it well. You insist that they deliver publics, because we all know that kulang nga yung tanong nyo, dear colleague, na is there enough funding for the poor who need for? Wala nga, kulang nga. So dapat nagamit man lang doon, di ba?
I cannot imagine why PhilHealth would not use it when there are so many hospitals in need, so many vulnerable populations and people in need. Kaya hindi po dahilan yung hindi magagamit na pondo. In short, kailangan ibigay ang pondo dahil may batas dyan. So, I cannot imagine also that we, with our power and influence in lawmaking and in the budgetary process, cannot actually demand that the national government remit to PhilHealth what is due them for this year. May we just put on record what is a total amount needed?
So the total amount, if you add the sin tax earmarking, is 129.96 billion pesos. Earmarking from PCSO and PAGCOR is 106.95 billion pesos. And then if the total of that is around 236 billion. And then if you add the funds that were removed by DOF from PhilHealth, that is 60 billion. So the total is 296.91. That's why I just say it's almost 300 billion.
300 billion.
Yes.
And it is a matter of the national government remitting it to PhilHealth. It's as simple as that.
Yes. That is correct.
I think at least the Senate, as a body, collectively, we could all communicate it in a letter, aside from having this as part of the Senate records in our interpellations. In fact, the body of the interpellations can be attached to that letter addressed to the Department of Finance, the DBM. That's my suggestion, and we should not just let it be part of the archives of the Senate that we discussed it today. That is my suggestion. We should not let it pass just like that. I'm sure the lady sponsor would agree, and Senator Go and the chairman. Does this include the 60 billion that was earmarked in the NEP of 2025 but deleted in the BICAM? Is a 300 billion, does a 300 billion include the 60 billion already?
I've included that because that
Already.
should be delivered also.
Okay. Okay. Okay, we take note of that, and we've given our suggestions on that. May I also know what are the root causes of the drastic decline in premium collection efficiency? If this is accurate, from 53 to 12%, and how does this affect PhilHealth's actuarial sustainability? How does the immediate eligibility provision of the Universal Healthcare Law affect the collection discipline, and what policy adjustments can be made without undermining universal access? Is there really a premium collection decline from 53% to 12%?
May we ask, Your Honor, what is the basis for the conclusion that there's a decline? Because I have different numbers that don't really reveal that.
Yeah. It is said that these are remittances from government agencies. In short, government agencies have not remitted to PhilHealth.
Any collections din
Yes, yes. That's why I wanted to clarify, government agencies, it is said, are not remitting completely to PhilHealth.
Yes.
And
And nag-decline din yung collections from employees.
and collections from employees also declined. In our records, I hope PhilHealth is here, it declined from 53 to 12%. Is this accurate? This was mentioned in the budget hearing, no?
Yes.
Yeah. From PhilHealth. PhilHealth admitted a decline in collections. Ang laki naman ng decline.
Na-mention sa budget.
The numbers that PCS PhilHealth has shows that the government agency's collection efficiency is at 95%, Your Honor. I'm wondering if because what we put on record is the indirect contribution of government. In other words, it's the subsidy that the national government gives. That one is low. But not the government agencies, because those are considered direct contributors,
So-
and the collection efficiency there is high.
So correct our figures, assuming this understanding, but it was during the hearing of PhilHealth, when they said that there was a drastic decline, and we are quoting them, from 53 to 12%, because we did not invent these numbers. This came from PhilHealth, and so I was wondering, how does this affect, and if the good
Where
sponsors...
did Your Honor get it? Did you say it was in the hearing?
During the PhilHealth, during the DOH hearing, PhilHealth mentioned a 53 to 12% decline. Diba?
Maybe we can go revert, Your Honor, because there is no one who remembers that.
Sherwin po. He pointed it out. Si Senador point out. And it was refuted naman po by
Okay, the culprit is our chairman, Senator Sherwin. At aalamin ko pa kung ano yun. Give me a second.
It was a quote from the chair na, huh?
remittances.
If it is not accurate, then we correct what was discussed in the hearing then, and there is no such decline in collections.
Not from the government agencies that
No.
Your Honor mentioned, no. There is no such decline. It is 95% efficiency. The quote from Senator Sherwin is something else. I don't know if you want me to get into it. It's a little bit different. I don't know, maybe there was
Then
lost in
we
translation.
delete that.
Yes, let's just
Then-
delete. It is
Yes.
simpler.
Okay, we delete, because when I was reviewing the transcript, the impression I got was there was a collection decline from 53 to 12%. We now proceed to the FDA enforcement and market compliance for consumer safety. This was discussed earlier by the Senate President on certain products, but I would like to know what mechanisms does the FDA currently use to ensure that products subject to advisories are fully removed from online and physical markets? What kind of formal coordination protocols exist among the FDA, DTI, even NBI, and e-commerce platforms for post-advisory enforcement?
Mr. President, as I explained to the Senate President earlier in a similar inquiry, when there is already an advisory and there's a continued violation, the FDA can do a takedown, so they can order the takedown of the actual sites. I'm asking about